Governor Newsom is now claiming Panera Bread is not exempt from a new state law that will require fast food restaurants to pay their workers $20 an hour. But some lawmakers are now calling for an investigation into the governor and one of his billionaire donors, who is also a Panera Bread franchisee. In a statement today, the governor's office said this: the governor never met with Flynn about his bill, and this story is absurd. Our legal team has reviewed, and it appears Panera is not exempt. And now we're also hearing from the franchisee himself. KCRA 3 Capitol correspondent Ashley Zavala explains.
Steps away from the state capitol, a new Panera Bread. New questions around this location's billionaire franchisee and his influence on the governor blocks away. Multiple sources confirmed to KCRA 3 that franchisee and Newsom donor, Greg Flynn, influenced the governor to make a special carve-out for chains that produce and sell their own bread in a new state law that will require fast food giants to pay their workers at least $20 an hour. At the state capitol, we approached the state lawmaker who wrote the law. Were you part of the negotiation to include that exemption?
I was not.
You weren't, but it was your bill. So how were you not included in the negotiation?
In terms of, it's my bill, but in terms of the negotiations, it was bringing together the business community and the franchisees and the franchisors, and also SEIU and others, and through the governor's leadership, they came together, and what came out of that is what became the amendments to the bill.
The optics of the Panera exemption in this fast food worker bill, I mean, can you acknowledge that to the regular Californian, this might look questionable?
Well, I think that that's a conversation that, that you'll have to have with others.
Republican state lawmakers are calling for an investigation of some sort, whether that's the ethics committee here in the legislature that looks into this, or the state attorney general. But some don't have any confidence in the Democratic supermajority investigating itself, going as far to say potentially the FBI should be involved.
Who's in charge of investigating this? Who's in charge of making sure that the law was actually followed and that there was nothing shady going on? And frankly, I don't think the Attorney General is capable of doing that. I mean, the Attorney General is likely to run for governor, and he's in the same party and very close with the governor. I think it has to be an outside agency that investigates this, and maybe even the FBI, to be honest with you.
Flynn, the franchisee, sent KCRA 3 a lengthy statement Thursday night saying, in part, to be clear, at no time did I ask for an exemption or special considerations. In fact, the idea never even occurred to me, and I was surprised when the exemption appeared in the final legislation. He went on to say he did not meet with Newsom directly, but did meet with his staff when he opposed the bill.
We're barely hanging on right now.
We interviewed Flynn in 2022 when he was at first a major opponent of it.
When I think about the creation of a council designed specifically to add more cost to our business, I don't know if we can make it.
We've asked, but Flynn has not said if he agrees with Newsom's latest interpretation of the law that he claims does not exempt Panera. Campaign finance records show Flynn donated $164,000 to Newsom's campaigns in 2021 and 2022. Including deposits before and after the exemption was put into the bill. Governor Newsom now shifting his approach to the questions after we first tried to ask about this 6 months ago. Why in the agreement did you all decide that those workers should not be within the umbrella of this?
I mean, that's part of the sausage making.
In Sacramento, Ashley Zavala, KCRA 3 News.